Oh man. Dude, so this is super low key.
Yeah.
We usually just roll right into it.
Got it.
I want to kind of keep going on what we were talking about, which is social media, and kind of like what we're doing right now, right? So we were talking about like returns and starting it and doing it. I think the biggest problem people, at least for me, starting it was just like it feels fucking embarrassing and kind of cringy, and you're like, am I too old to do this? You know what I'm saying?
Very much. I mean, that was so again. It took me. I started real estate July of 2022. I didn't do my first thing, like actually pay for anything on social media until April of 2023.
Nice.
And because I looked at it, I'm like, everybody's doing it.
Yep.
I'm not from here. I don't know anybody here. I don't have an SOI here. I spent 6 months cold calling, and there is nothing worse than cold calling. So here's the thing: is my first week in real estate, rates at 7.5 for the first time.
Woo-hoo!
They came from 3 straight to 7.5. That was
everybody's like, shut up.
You want to just get abused? Is start cold calling the week that because they can't sell their house in the 3s, and I'm calling them saying, "Hey, what happened?" They're gonna unload on.
Oh, dude.
So I'm like,
poor soul.
Yeah, this is rough. So I'm not gonna do this for a career. This is terrible. I'm seeing everybody else on social media.
Yeah.
What can I do? And there was a photographer that reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, let me get all your listings. Like, I'll do one for free. I'll do this." I'm like, No, I'm on a team. We have this stuff going. I said, here's what I do need to do. I want to do this. It was awkward. He set a camera up. So like I'm looking this way and the camera's over here.
Yeah.
So like when I'm talking into the, like when we put it on social media, I'm not even looking at the camera.
Yep.
But they killed it.
Yeah.
They absolutely crushed it.
Nice.
And everything, it was just weird because I'm not talking about anything real estate related. It's just random nonsense that I'm spitting out. I didn't like the camera. I'd never done it. It was in my house. I'm having to shoo dogs out of the way. Like doorbells ring. Like it was weird.
Yeah.
But it worked.
Yeah.
And it just took off.
Well, and it feels real too. Like the dog's in the way, the doorbell's ringing and all that stuff. It's like, you know, I read a stat the other day. I can't remember it, but the non-professionally kind of edited stuff does really, really well. And if you can kind of mix it up too, it's even better. So like to your point earlier, it's the walkthroughs, you know, filming those yourself. You know, it just feels weird to be like, hey, and you're talking to a camera.
Yeah.
But at some point you got to go, what's
works.
working?
Why reinvent the wheel?
That's right,
And
man.
I saw, again, I'm not techie, I'm not social media savvy, but I saw when I started learning it, I watched something with Ryan Serhant, and everything he did was very, very polished.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going like he wanted to. And somebody who had a bigger following on social media than him was like, be raw.
Yeah.
Just let it be raw. So that was when we did it. I had a list of questions. None of them were like, hey, what's the interest rate on today's market? Or what can you get for that? Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, nobody cares about that because they're going to work with you because they know, like, and trust you. They don't really care what you know.
Yes.
I mean, they do care what you know when they actually get to know you, but you got to get to earn that conversation anyway.
100%.
But yeah, like me, I'm loud. I talk fast. I'm from Alabama, so I talk fast, and there's a twang to it. You put me in front of a camera holding it around and going around looking at houses. It's not entertaining. Maybe it's entertaining.
I don't know.
It could be entertaining. I
think that's pretty entertaining, dude.
But it's just not it's not me.
Yeah, it feels weird.
It's weird, but you put me sit down and like, hey, answer this question.
Right.
Cool. I'll answer the question.
Let's do it.
And maybe it's a relevant answer, maybe it's not, but it takes off. Like I'm putting it on thing. I have zero following on anything.
Same.
And it's like he puts it out and I'm getting like 10,000 views on these things. And I'm like, what does that equate to? Well, then all of a sudden my phone rings. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden somebody that saw it 2 states over that knows me is like, hey, I didn't know you were in real estate. I got these folks moving to Nashville. Why don't you call them?
Boom.
All of a sudden referrals pop up. People start calling, all these things. And I'm like, all right, this has got legs to it.
Yeah.
Like this works. So then I transitioned and I started figuring out how to do it on my own.
Yep.
Like, hey, I can edit it with this app. I can do this, but all just the clips, right?
Yep.
So I'm sitting in open houses. If they're slow, because I had 2 listings that were in North Nashville that it was a terrible open house spot. Beautiful homes. So I had a great background. So I just set up the camera and I'd just knock them out. I'd put them out. Same thing. These cost me no money.
Yeah.
And it's just, here it comes. People are calling. That was the bulk of my business for 2023 came from
No kidding.
social media, most of it.
Do you mind sharing? Because I think it's a powerful stat. You said you spent X and it made Y.
So I spent $1,000. I was terrified to spend $1,000 in April.
What'd you spend $1,000 on? So everybody knows.
So it was, I got 12 reels out of it. He showed up at my house. We'd filmed the reels. He edited it, cut it, did all the stuff. So it was basically Photoshop, or not the Photoshop, the actual shoot,
Yep.
the edit, everything.
Cool.
So I spent $1,000.
Did you come up with the ideas for the reels, or did
Nope.
he help with that?
He helped with it.
Okay, nice.
He helped with it, and because my thing is I'm not like everybody else.
Right.
I'm not going to go talk to you about interest rates. I'm not going to go talk to you about, oh, I love your house. That's great. Yeah. I do love your house, but your house is a product, right? It's not something I'm going to walk in and say, what makes me good at my job? I love houses and I love architecture. So it's not going to say, all right, if I have to sell this and I have to get into a tough negotiation, that's not going to help me. So
that's a good point.
We were looking at it, and I'm like, I need to showcase me, because I'm not like, again, I'm not like everybody else. I'm a former college baseball coach. I came from the financial industry.
Nice.
I work a little different. He's like, all right, well, let's just answer these questions. And it was like partially my story, why we moved. I live in College Grove, why we're in College Grove, what the story behind us moving here, because it was the part where we were like kind of homeless for a month. Not really homeless, but we didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
Randomly just started spitting that stuff off, and
it's
it
so
resonated. Good. But yeah, so anyway, $1,000. It took about 12 months. So right at like the 12-month and 20-day mark, I made from $1,000 spend, it was like $65,000.
Can you imagine? That's a 60x return.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 60x return on your ad spend.
Mm-hmm.
If they usually say for like Google ads, at least these are the firms I've worked with,
mm-hmm.
if they were getting a 3x, they were ecstatic.
Mm-hmm.
So there is basically no other thing you can do.
Nothing.
That is
nothing
as far as money and time. That
mm-hmm.
it took you 1 day probably of your time.
Oh yeah, it took half a day.
Half a day.
Took half a day.
That resulted in $60,000 worth of business, dude. I mean, and that's exactly why we're doing these conversations,
mm-hmm.
because we'll take this long form, we'll put it on any channel that accepts long form,
mm-hmm.
and then we'll cut it up into short form, and we'll have content for days and months and years, and then share it with you, and then you can do the same thing.
It
right?
lives forever.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is it's evergreen. It doesn't go anywhere. And if you do it right, and you're not talking about like, oh well, this is happening right now today.
Yep.
It's always like it transitions to whatever year it is, whatever quarter it is, whatever rates are, whatever the market's doing. It doesn't matter if you just talk about relevant information.
That's right. Yep.
And I learned that. And again, I'm not good at it by any means, but
that's the thing. You don't have to be.
No
one. They don't care. They don't really want a polished BS news anchor, because
that's not me.
Everyone hates the news.
That's not me.
People are going to like big trusted podcasts
mm-hmm.
for their information,
mm-hmm.
right? I trust the podcast that I listen to for real world information over any other source of media or news, mm-hmm. just because, I don't know, that's just my personality, you know? That's how people are consuming. Dude, so talking about how people are consuming information, I did a lot of research on our competitors' Instagrams. And I looked at their reels, and I went to the very beginning, and I looked at where their number of reels just jumped. Mm-hmm. And the only difference, they were basically posting the same stuff, but the only difference was they put background music on it. Mm-hmm. And the views like 100x'd, just because people were like, oh, I like this song.
Well, it pops up in the algorithm too. You put the trending audio on it, and all of a sudden it takes off. That's the big thing. So I started doing random stuff during the Masters just because I got tired of being behind a camera. I didn't want to do anything. So I just took golf courses that I played or been at, wrote like basically sarcastic stuff. Like, hey, you're watching the Masters today thinking you're going to move here, but you're really not. You think you can go out and shoot par at Augusta. You can't. But if you want to live in a gated neighborhood in Nashville that's on a golf course, I can help you do that.
Nice.
Thousands.
Yeah.
Like normally I'm not, again, I don't have a ton of following. I get 400, 500, 600 views, whatever.
Right.
These were 5,000, 10,000, 40,000, 18,000. I mean, it just went.
There's such a lesson there.
I did it every day. No face, no nothing, random stuff, trending music. And most of it was just Masters audio.
Right. Because you took advantage of what everybody was already looking at. They're sitting there scrolling. They see some Masters mm-hmm. stuff. They're like, oh, I'm watching the Masters. This is golf. And they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And
I got like, in the first week of the Masters, I got 4 messages, I think, from people randomly on Instagram. Like, hey,
and you were sitting on your couch.
Uh-huh. Doing nothing.
Amazing.
Doing absolutely nothing. And again, I'm not good at this. But now none of them have bought anything.
Right. It doesn't matter. It's a lead.
I mean, it's just random stuff that, I listen to podcasts I want to listen to. So, and I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings in Nashville, but I don't listen to anybody in Nashville. Yeah. Because, it may work for you here, but I want to hear what somebody's doing in Dallas. I want to hear what somebody's doing in Knoxville or in Florida or in Alabama, whatever it is, like what's working there that I can kind of pick apart. So I took different pieces of it and just sort of piecing it all together. And I see what some agents are doing here. This is the faceless stuff, and it's the trending audio and all that. Right. And I'm like, I wonder if I can do it. And yeah, it worked.
It's so good, dude.
And it's all of it, like you open up your Instagram and it's like all the little, I'm like, I can't stand having just the little red dots. Like if I get a text message, I got to read it.
Yep.
You open up Instagram and it's nothing but the little pink heart deal or red heart, whatever. It's everywhere. I'm like, what in the world is going on with this thing?
Or just some reel that you
just
posted.
Random stuff.
Dude, so let's get into your business a little bit.
Yeah.
So, because that's why you're here. We want to talk real estate.
Mm-hmm.
We want to kind of spread your brand here. So, what brokerage are you with? How does all that work for you guys? And then, what are your goals in real estate over the next couple of years?
So, mine is, and this will be the first place I've actually said this publicly too. So it'll be kind of an interesting transition. I think I might have told you in a message, but so I'm at Benchmark. I've been there for 2 years. I'm on a team called MyHome.
Yep.
John Sexton runs our team. John's been in real estate for 6 years, I think. He started the team a few years ago. I came on, was one of the first ones in 2022.
Nice.
So it was kind of funny when I got in, everybody knew the market was changing. Nobody was bringing on new agents. So John actually met my wife at a birthday party, and she's like, you need to call this guy. So I called him. And he's like, yeah, I'm bringing on new folks. So there it was. Got my license, went on to the team. So our team is structured. Like I said, it's called MyHome. We're based, we're in Cool Springs is where Benchmark is. So okay. Benchmark, if you don't know what Benchmark Realty is, Benchmark is a local Middle Tennessee brokerage. We're the largest, used to be, maybe, I don't know, probably since the Parks Compass combination, we might be behind, I don't know, but was the largest brokerage in Middle Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
So it works. I mean, it's a team model, right? You get one, you get all type deal. And what that means is like, all right, if I'm out of town, if I've got multiple listings and I'm doing open houses, I can put people in different scenarios. Like this past weekend, I was going out of town. I had some clients that actually my brother-in-law called me. He's like, hey, we got some folks that may be moving up here. Can you show them around today? I'm like, no, I can't, because we're getting pictures of my house done because I'm trying to sell my house.
Yep.
But I can make a phone call and say, hey, if they need to go see this, I can put somebody in front of them. So I'll be the face of the transaction. I got somebody who's working kind of behind the scenes working with me.
Very cool.
So that's how it works on, the team aspect. For me, in the last 3 weeks, I've also got my mortgage license. So I'm kind of making a little bit of a transition. Like I said, I haven't made that public knowledge yet. Yeah. There's a story and a reason behind it, which I think may be kind of interesting. I think it's interesting. Some people may not find it interesting, but from the real estate goal standpoint and that sort of stuff, I'm going to do air quotes. I'm going to do both. Yeah. I'm not supposed to do both necessarily, but for me, I've got my clients that will only use me.
Yeah.
I will not hand them off. They will only use me. I've got my own business, but also what I want to do is help build other businesses because I came from a coaching world.
Gotcha.
That's how I kind of approach everything that I do. Like my listing presentation is pretty unique. My buyer presentation is pretty unique. Not a lot of people can pull it off because not a lot of people have the personality that I do.
Yep.
And the background that I do.
Right.
So when it comes to my real estate business, it's very, I think you use the term, there's no BS to it, right? I am not a sugarcoating type person. I am very blunt. You're making one of the largest purchases or sales of your life. Why do I want to?
No time for that.
I don't have time for fairy tales and rainbows, right? If it's bad news, I'm going to tell you bad news, and then we're going to move on.
Yep.
If it's good news, I'm going to tell you good news, and we're going to move on. That's just the way that I operate. Some people don't like it. Some people do. To me, it's an easier way to create trust in the process because things happen. Things go wrong all the time, which again is how mortgage ended up for me when things were going drastically wrong in a deal I had out-of-town clients. Yeah.
So they were going wrong because of the lender?
So long story, and I'll tread lightly on the whole thing. But
of course,
had some clients that were out of town. They were buying an Airbnb in Nashville. They're from Alabama. They're wanting to buy something up here. And naturally, they see the market. They're like, we want to get into it. So we look for 5-6 months, right? Find a deal, and the deal, it happens to be, hey, we're going to do these builder incentives because you're one of 2 that are coming in and getting it right now. Like, sweet. So we've built this deal. We've structured it to where it works.
Okay.
Now we got to figure out how to finance this thing. We had somebody tell us no. We got somebody else that said, hey, we can do it. Don't worry about it. So we pushed. This was in November of last year, I think. And we pushed. It ends up, without going through all the minutia of what everything is, we get past the due diligence period. Everything goes hard at this point. The earnest money and everything. They got $40,000 on the line. I get a phone call. Hey, I can't do it. They're going to lose their money. I'm like,
How much is in earnest?
40 grand.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And on top of that, they've had to restructure a couple things. So like we've moved this thing around knowing that it's going to, we got to move some stuff, but it's going to work based on the numbers that we already have in front of us that we think are going to work. Right. So we did all this. So really it's about 90 grand on the line. 40 would be gone. Another 50 that was maneuvered is not where it needs to be.
Gotcha.
And if this doesn't go through,
they've committed 90.
We've committed a lot of money.
Yeah.
Then you've got you've got a lot of money on the line on this, and got to call. Hey, can't do it. Like, no, you can. We can. It was just absolute. Just again, without diving too detailed into the whole thing. Not a fun experience, not exciting for my clients, nothing. We're still having issues with it now. We closed 3 months ago.
Oh.
And
so y'all ended up closing?
We ended up closing.
We
ended up closing. They're cash flowing it now. It's at the Neo in Nashville. If you need an Airbnb, and check it out.
Hell yeah.
So it was one of those. So I called a guy in the middle of all of this stuff, and I needed somebody to fix it. Like, hey, we're not going down without a fight. We're not losing the 40 grand. I'm going to try one more time.
Yeah.
And I called him, and he's like, yeah, I can fix it. We can do this, this, and this. They may not like everything, but I think we can get it done. And it was like a Tuesday, and he's on his boat. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm working. What are you talking about? What am I doing? And I was like, I'm over here working, like running my carpet ragged while I'm walking around trying to get this thing done. He's sitting out on a boat, and it's like, I need your job.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, come do it. And I'm like, I got to figure this first. And I hung up, didn't talk to. We ended up fixing it, talked to him later, whatever. So I called him back, and I was like, hey, were you serious? And he was like, yeah. He'd already called it corporate. I didn't know that. So he had already kind of got it worked out because I didn't have any mortgage experience. So my end, and other agents can attest to this, is there's a lot of times for, trying to think as delicately as I can say this, things out of our control, things go really wrong. That could have been handled on the front end.
Yep.
There's enough that goes on the agent side. Once you get under contract, from inspections, appraisals, trying to get things fixed, trying to get all that, financing should not be the biggest issue.
Right.
So what I kind of,
it's out of your hands too.
It's completely out of our hands. I can't control it. So as an agent, one of the things that I like to do on the real estate side is I'm kind of a control freak.
Yeah.
If I can control it, I really want to control it.
Well, because you're going to be the first blamed when
it's my
something
fault.
goes wrong.
It doesn't matter if it's my fault or not.
Right.
It's my fault.
Oh,
so
frustrating.
Very. So I'm one of those. It's like, and I kind of operate on a need to know basis too. Like, look, there's things that go on in real estate transactions that people just don't need to know because it's fixable. If it costs me a little bit of money, so what? It's going to stress them out. And the thing that you don't want to do is once you get under contract, it becomes stressful. Why do I want to make it more stressful with unnecessary things?
Right.
Doesn't make sense, right? So looking at it on the lending side, I was like, there's a need for this. Somebody coming in who has been an agent and saying, all right, I'm going to talk to the agent and I'm going to talk to the buyer. This is how we're going to do it. One, do you want to go show 15 houses on Saturday and Sunday for somebody to say, yeah, I don't like it, I don't think I can qualify? Or then you get told, oh, they can't qualify for it anyway. So I've done it. Like, I'm guilty of the whole thing, right? I'm one of those too, is you can't really, it's hard to do something if you never experienced it. Like, it's hard to tell something if you've never done it yourself.
Of course, yeah, that's a learning lesson.
I've done it. I've spent hours with people that they can't qualify. Now, it's on me.
Yeah.
It's my fault. Don't qualify, don't like the house, don't want to move. So what if you can eliminate that?
Yeah.
On the front end, what if you can talk to the agent and say, this is what we're looking at, this, you can send it to me, I'm going to plug everything in, and then you're going to go into a house and you're going to know everything that you need to know. And if you like it, all your stuff is right there.
Yeah.
Forget the pre-approval letter. You need that, yes, but you got all the information that you need in front of you. So from an agent, you're like, yeah, that way I don't have to go show 20 houses, because if there's one that, hey, it may be over budget, look, this is exactly what the numbers are.
And when you say everything you need to know, you're talking about cost breakdown,
everything,
property taxes, what your monthly is.
Price. If we go over price and we ask for concessions, it's this interest rate, we put this much down, we put this. I'm basically creating an a la carte system.
Right.
And I'm taking it from the guy that I'm working with, right? But I'm taking it from a perspective of, if I'm approaching agents, like, hey, I've been you. I've done this. I know what you're doing. I've left soccer games to go show houses for people to tell me that they can't afford it. I've driven places separately with my family and just dropped in and left and done all of these things for me to waste time. Well, why do I want to continue doing that?
Yeah.
So looking at it, and I got 2 young kids, right? I don't want to go work. Last year I worked 85 days straight in the first quarter. I had like $6 million under contract. And I was like, oh, this is great. And I lost $4.5 million of it in the 11th hour. And I was like, this sucks.
How does that happen a lot?
Things out of my control.
Yeah.
I mean, yes and no. One of them was an inspection deal where we got hammered, and we shouldn't have been hammered. It was a pass-fail inspection, and they didn't like the inspection, so they failed it. But that deal, we were under a sell-a-home contingency on another place. The people whose house we were buying were under a sell-a-home contingency on another place. So them wanting basically $150,000 off of a $1.3 million listing, it costs like $7,000 to actually get everything corrected. They wanted $150,000 off of it, and it blew 4 deals to pieces.
Oh, God.
And so the other folks ended up getting their deal done. Like they ended up getting another buyer, but it blew ours to pieces. And then we had some like folks just decide, and a lot right now, like this year I've had a lot of, hey, we're going to go see some places, or nope, sorry, my job's not going to move me anymore. Like they're on it, they're looking for it. They tell them to start looking for places, and then, nope, just kidding, we're not going to go. That's happened a lot this year, but did things fall at the 11th hour? Some. I mean, we've had financing issues where things fell through. I mean, my own deal right now, like it's not going to fall through, but like there's a lot of sell-a-home contingencies going, because what's happened in the last probably 2 years is more people are finding a home then listing their home instead of listing their home and then finding a home. So you're kind of doing it a little bit opposite.
Why is that?
Because they don't want to sell if there's nothing to go get. Inventory's down.
Right.
So
they're just confirming before they do anything
They're
else.
confirming before they do anything else. Because what's your biggest fear is not finding something that you want, right?
Because they're pretty sure that they can sell their home. The hard part is finding what you want.
Yep.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm doing that. I mean, that's the situation we ran into.
Right.
Because I'm moving and relocating a little further south, and it's not going to go very far, but we were looking at places, and there wasn't anything. There was like 35 houses that fit the criteria that we wanted, and that's it.
That's a tough market for real estate agents right now.
It is. I mean, inventory's down. I mean, it's tough, but it isn't, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going and you're doing your homework on the front, it's not as hard as you think it is.
Okay, gotcha.
The prospecting part is the hard. The real estate part's not that hard.
Yeah.
The prospecting part, finding the client, getting everything ready to start going and looking at houses.
Right.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Which is where my transition, that's the reason that I'm making it easier on the agent. And I don't have to go work 7 days a week.
Nice.
Because, again, I got a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
And they'll be, when they start, we're putting them in a new school. They'll be 5 and 3 when they start. I want to go do things on Saturday. I want to go do, like, they got baseball tonight. I'm a former college baseball coach. Is it my most exciting thing to do on Tuesday night is watch somebody else coach my kids, and I don't agree one bit with what they're saying?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But I get to go do it. I don't have to go show houses.
Okay, so you're transitioning full-time into the mortgage, the lending side of things.
It'll be like a 90-10 type deal.
Nice. Yeah. When's the transition happen?
It's in process.
Nice.
Yeah.
No solid dates on it?
No, so, I mean, it's in process. I'm getting my home sold right now, getting a couple. I mean, because I still have business. I'm just not supposed to market it that way.
So is that like a real estate law?
It's a mortgage. The company,
gotcha.
so you technically you can do both, but the company that I'm with doesn't want me to do, doesn't want me to market both.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that one we might want to keep a secret on there too. But
yeah. So how are you finding new clients for the mortgage side? Or
calling agents.
Nice.
So I'm approaching agents with the same thing that I just told you. Like, hey, I used to be you.
Yeah.
Tell me a story of what do you do with your clients? What's the process when you meet them to when you go under contract? What do you do? Everything's almost the same because we've all been taught the same way. You get them, you meet them, you get them pre-approved. Well, what's the pre-approval look like? Well, I don't know. I send it to a lender and we get it pre-approved. And lenders are going to get mad at me when I'm saying these types of things. And not everyone is this kind of nonchalant about it, but some of them are.
Yeah.
And the reason some people really crush it is because they can go against and beat the ones that are nonchalant. And the same thing on the agent side. It's the same concept. But you go through that process and it's like, all right, what if you could do it different? What if we were completely pre-underwritten before you showed homes? Now we can say, hey, we can close in 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks. Or now we can close in 21 days instead of 45 days. But now you can walk into a house and you know exactly what the numbers are. And agents are looking at me like, well, how do you do it? And I'm like, it's easy. We just basically take a financial meeting. It's a consultation. So when I'm approaching agents, that's the pitch.
So you just kind of do the steps essentially, right? So you move what would essentially be like step 4 and make it step 1. And then that way when they're going to show homes. So it's not really much of a change as far as like business operations for realtors. It's just a little bit of a change of like the timeline of things.
For realtors, it's exactly the same.
Nice.
Because essentially the realtor's job gets really hard when you get under contract. Because we kind of talked about that before. It's the last thing you need to do is worry about financing when you're under contract as a realtor. Because you don't control it, right? So you got to worry about inspections. You got to worry about all the other stuff, right? The appraisals, inspections. Appraisals are coming in pretty close right now, but a few years ago they weren't. That's where you've got to do, and you've got to play therapist to people because at this point you've got between 14 and probably 45 days before you close. People are really digging in. They're looking like, are we sure we're making the right decision? Is this what we want to do? So you've got to really hone in on that. Why do you have to worry if somebody else is doing their job on the financing side?
Right. Okay. So you're removing some friction there, big time.
I'm taking it off. I'm thinking of the agent.
For the agent.
And I'm saying, look, I want to make your life easier. I don't want to just tell you that. I literally want to make your life easier. I want to make your client's experience a lot better because what's that going to do for everybody? They're going to refer you. You're going to get their friends. They're going to call their neighbors. And it's a bigger growth opportunity for everybody involved.
We have similar missions with MyHome. So, MyHome is it's derived from our time in home services and seeing the troubles there, just as you saw troubles or opportunities really, and how can we make this better?
Right.
So what we're doing is we're trying to make maintaining and manage your home the most convenient and simple way possible, right? So what we've found over the years of talking to customers, talking to homeowners, dealing with homeowners by the thousands and running our other company. And then our actual survey process where we did some validation was homeowners have 4 main problems. Paying their contractors, so they usually have around 4 to 6 different contractors. Paying them is fragmented. So they're cash here, check here, Venmo here, credit card here. It's annoying. Communication is hard, so they don't know how or when to communicate with their vendors. And when we say vendors, we mean like lawn care, pest control, HVAC, plumbing, you name it. Communicating and scheduling, right? So those main, what did I say? I said payments, communicating, scheduling. Oh, and sorry, the 4th one is finding quality vendors, right? So what we've really done is we've built a platform where it really addresses those 4 main things, built specifically for the homeowner, which is why we're completely different and on the opposite side of like an Angie or a Thumbtack. But we're also a marketplace. So we're an invite-only marketplace for these home service professionals.
So you've already done the vetting on the front end.
Exactly. Yeah. So we've removed that vetting. And the reason why we really, really like mortgage lenders, real estate agents is because oftentimes they're the ones that get the, hey, do you have a plumber when you're at your kid's soccer game?
All the time. It's, hey, do you have a guy? Yeah, I've got a guy for what? Even if I don't, I'll figure it out.
Exactly.
Real quick.
So what we want to do is, we want to be the answer to all those questions while also making sure that we're making realtors look good, right? So we're really trying, the quality thing's huge because we know that falls back on the reputation of the realtor, but also we want to give some time back. Right, to realtors. That's
the big thing.
Yeah, so that way you can spend time prospecting and not spend time, I'll find you a plumber. And really you're just like texting somebody else like, do you know a good plumber? Or going into your brokerage's list of good plumbers, whatever it is. So we really want to do that. But also at the same time, we understand from the realtor side, while those calls are annoying, sometimes they're good touch points, right? Because it's all about being helpful so you can get the referral. So what we've done is we've found ways to where we can on our platform, there's a messaging side, right? So we can pin you as the realtor to the top of that message board for forever. Nice. So anytime they use that, they can see you, and it'll be a text direct to you.
So it's exactly like what I'm trying to create on the thing is you're making life easier because here's the thing that, and I'm not diving into it just because I don't want to talk about it that much, but the change is coming forward in real estate.
Yep.
It's if you aren't buttoned up on everything that you have, if you're still shooting from the hip, how much harder is life going to be?
Dude, it's gonna kick them. It's gonna kick people out of the industry, and that's what we keep saying is, especially to realtors, is like, and they know it. It's now's the time to provide value, right? I mean, obviously, always is the time to provide value, but it's gonna get a little bit more difficult. I think the change in real estate is probably an overall good thing. I think it's gonna really, really benefit great realtors. Yeah, I think it's gonna discourage people who just go, well, maybe I'll just try this. because it's going to be a lot
It's
harder.
going to be harder.
Yeah.
Well, and remember and so again, I said the thing of like, oh, well, what qualifies you to sell my home? If you walk into a listing, oh, well, I love houses. Okay.
Right.
What does that do?
Right.
Right. And maybe that works. I don't know. Maybe you have a massive network and but who knows? But you got to do a little more. What's your marketing look like? Who is the back end people?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with this?
What value are you providing?
Yeah. Value is not like, value is the things that you can't see.
Yeah.
It's what are you going to bring to the table with X happens? Is there an answer for all of these things? And it's the same thing I'm trying to transition and do exactly what you guys are doing is you're making life easier on an industry that there's a lot of options, but if you can condense it and when the changes are going to happen, if everybody's got it kind of in-house and has an answer for it, it makes life so much easier.
Absolutely, dude. And like these industries for some reason are some of the last ones to innovate, especially the home services industry. And I say it all the time, but a big thing, what we're trying to do is, and especially in conversations, because we have home service company owners come in here and have these conversations as well. And like what we're trying to do on that end is change some of the stigma, right? We're trying to change some of that, the expectations of some of those guys. But in reality, those business owners are usually on their second or third career. They're usually in their mid-50s, and they've sunk a lot of their retirement and savings into their HVAC company.
Yeah.
And they're trying to make it work, and they're working their ass off, and they're incredibly smart, incredibly hardworking. They care about the product. But for some reason, I feel like these industries have a weird stigma to it. I don't know why I brought that up, but that's exactly what we're trying to do on our side too, and having those conversations.
Just trying to streamline it. I mean, you're making it easier. Everything else is streamlined. You go to a doctor's office, right? Everything that you do, it's automated. Everything moves. It's automated. If you have to go to this doctor to get referred to this doctor, there's a system. There's a process. And I'm not comparing real estate and home services or anything to medical practices, but it's very similar.
Absolutely, it should be.
Yeah, it's the money that you're spending is very similar. It's the same thing. Like if you go,
probably more because if you have health insurance, you're probably not spending anything.
Right. I mean, but that's the thing. Like if you go into a doctor's office and you only give them 40% of the information, they can't diagnose and they can't treat anything. Well, the same thing. You go to buy a house, you go to sell a house, and you're only giving 40% of the information. Well, what if something gets found in the inspection? Well, how are you going to fix it because you didn't give the information? Now you got to have an answer. Well, then if you did give all the information, all right, well, cool, we know this and this is wrong. I'm going to go ahead and get it fixed if you put it on a listing, right? Because you got to disclose all of these things. If you can make it the same process and streamline it and have it all automated to where literally it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, just to use that analogy.
You know what I'm thinking? So like on the MyHome app, you have your profile section, you have your kind of Carfax for your home section. It carries your home inspection, it carries your insurance, your deed, all of that stuff. Carries all previous work, so it kind of it essentially eventually with time will live with the property, similar to like a Carfax report. What I see valuable here is I would love to sit down with the mortgage company that you're going to, because if there's a way that we can partner and have that information in the in the MyHome Facts. To where it might not be, obviously it'll be a little bit different based on each individual financial situation, but they could get a good idea of it. There's a certain thing there.
Like you're making a more educated decision up front, instead of having to do a lot of digging on the back end. Yeah, which again makes the purchase process a lot easier.
Dude, I really like what you guys are doing, man. Obviously that's our mission is to let's remove friction and streamline some old processes. So that's really cool. I'd love to continue the conversation because I know there's a way that we can in the future probably work together and combine those efforts. That's the
finding, and you used it better than I do. I see there's a need, right? And by me saying there's a need, that means I'm saying that some people in this industry aren't doing it how they're supposed to. No, I'm not bashing anyone in the industry whatsoever. I'm looking at it from my personality and my perspective saying this is an opportunity. And it's an opportunity for me to come in and say I can do it this way because I've done this. I've also been on the PNC insurance side, so I know all of that side of it too.
Oh, nice.
That was where I started when I got out of coaching. That was what I did. So you're talking about home insurance. You're talking about all these things. I've got all of that, and I know in the back of my mind all of it going through it, and I know the financial plan because I was a financial guy. Like it's all
tied together.
It all builds together, and you put it in the form of I want to target the agent who is going to be the best version of themselves and the best team for their client. Therefore, it's all going to work hand in hand. It's just going back to the original piece. It's building credibility, making you look better, and making everyone around you look better, so that it just makes life easy.
Yes.
It's the opportunity.
That's amazing, dude. So in restoration, we obviously work with a ton of PNC agents. What's exciting about that is, like, with our product, what we can do is we have some preventative maintenance stuff to where we can reduce significant opportunity or percentage of risk in homes.
Yeah.
Where we can hopefully save a lot of money to these insurance companies. And the goal there would be reduce premiums if we can reduce risk loss.
Premiums are great right now on insurance, folks.
Yeah. So yeah, dude, that's really cool. Anything you want to? So I always ask this question because, you know, I'll give you an example. In restoration, I always wish like customers and homeowners knew, like, time isn't on their side. You should call somebody immediately. Don't wait. That's one thing I always wish homeowners just knew. Even if it wasn't using us, it was using whatever. Just get somebody in there. Is there anything you would like homeowners to know about the real estate process, the buying process? Maybe something, just a little bit of education from your, industry expert.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things too, but one of the big is I'm going through selling my home. It's don't neglect the small little like repair type things.
Oh, nice.
Because so for example, on my house, we didn't paint. I got 2 kids. We closed on our house. We moved into it a month later. I got a 1-month-old at the same time. So we didn't paint. Life caught up to us, right? Well, now we're looking at it. We need to touch up some paint. We need to do a couple things. I got 2 kids that, they're kind of rough on the house. That sort of stuff matters a little bit because I like to say it's when somebody walks into a house, it's like they're opening up a Christmas present.
Yep.
You don't want to have something wrapped and it just looks like a toddler wrapped it and throw a bow on it. You want to have a nice wrapped up, pretty present because it gets you excited when you walk in.
Yep.
Don't neglect the small stuff. Touch up the paint. Get the AC serviced. Make sure the light bulbs are changed. All those little bitty things make such a big difference.
Nice.
Because then it keeps you out of negotiation with somebody trying to negotiate you to paint. Because 9 times out of 10, if you buy a house that's already been lived in, you're going to paint it anyway.
Yeah.
And if I'm the buying agent and I see the paint looks like crap, I'm going to try to negotiate it in because there's an opportunity to try to get it. Eliminate some of that from a homeowner standpoint. And on the lending.
That's good. That's really good. And what's interesting is we've been tossing around like a move out package on the platform, on our app, to where we could basically, it would be a shopping cart. Right, where you would select
pre-listing
what you want.
Package.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just the little the pre-listing package that goes along with. All right, so an agent brings in a listing presentation and like, hey, what I want to do too is introduce you to these guys who offer a pre-listing package. They can come in, all the little things that I'm going to walk through this house and I'm not going to be biased like you are because I don't live here. I'm not emotional on the house.
Yep.
I can go pick it apart and I can tell you what I think needs to be fixed and you can do it or you can't.
That's awesome. And there's also, you become kind of like blind to some of the issues that are going on in your home.
100%.
You see them every day.
You're there every day.
Right. Yeah, so it's nice to have somebody come in, like you said, that's not emotional and be like, all right, my goal is to make as much money for you as possible. Here's what we need to do, X, Y, and Z. And if a homeowner can have an easy button, which we're hoping to provide them,
right,
then that's like you said, simple, removes friction, makes it more convenient.
It just makes the trend, because again, you're making one of the biggest transactions you've ever made in your life.
Right.
Why do you want to make it harder than it needs to be over paint or over something on the driveway or over gutters or something? Because I've seen all sorts of stuff. Like, it's crazy. I've had to negotiate getting gutters cleaned out or people weren't going to close, or wooden windows that wouldn't open how they wanted them to. And if I didn't spend the $50 to get the windows to where the paint was, I had to unseal the paint to open, they weren't going to close. So a $300,000 house, they're not going to buy it over $50.
Right.
But that's the sort of stuff that's, you can eliminate that.
People feel like they just need a win. You know what I'm saying?
Like, well, why can't they get one though?
Yeah, exactly.
That's
well, that's kind of the realtor's whole thing.
It's the whole thing, because if you look at it, and some people may disagree with me, is why are you in competition? If you're the buying agent and listing agent, why are you competing against each other?
Right.
Unless it's just obnoxiously priced, and then as a buying agent, you're probably not going to make an offer anyway. Why? Listing agent wants a win, buying agent wants a win. Why can't you find it in the middle and everybody gets a win?
Right.
That's the whole, that's why we have a license. That's what our job is to create wins for both sides.
Right.
So that everybody's happy.
Yeah, there does seem to be, at least from the outsider looking in, there's this weird competition there.
But why?
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Why?
You're both winning if it's sold.
Yeah, because if I try to come in, if I'm the buying agent and I try to just beat down the listing agent and get everything I want out of it, well, is they don't want to sell. Then I'm risking losing the deal. And then I'm listing a rough transaction where they're not going to communicate. Because, I mean, again, I've been the guy that made a ton of phone calls on everything.
Yep.
And there's folks that are beat down. So then all of a sudden you're making the seller mad, and the seller doesn't want to communicate. So it's a trickle-down effect where if you can't get two people in the same room or in the room to come to a common ground and get the thing negotiated, then you're not going to get the deal done.
Right. Ugh. Yeah, dude, the real estate game is so fickle. It's crazy. It's changing, but having a good team with you is going to make that so much easier for the.
I've been on a team my entire life, and I didn't realize it because I'm a different personality. Sometimes I'm loud. I've kind of run at a different pace than most people.
Yep.
But I've been on a team my entire life, and I didn't realize that until I got back into it, and I'm on a team, and I'm like, there's value in numbers.
This is nice. Yeah.
And it's especially when you know how to leverage it.
Yeah.
When you can leverage the team to your advantage or leverage the team and help make your ability better.
Yeah.
I think everybody wins.
Especially when you're leveraging it, like you said, to make the customer's experience better. That's a win.
At the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yep.
That's
yeah,
it.
Because that's where your next business is going to come from.
100%.
Well, dude, I know you got to get going. Thanks
Enjoyed
so much
it.
for coming
man.
in, man.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely.